I think there's a lot that the clinicians can learn from the carers, because the carers probably know the service user much more intimately than because they're with them most of the time.
It's not just the sufferer that's vulnerable, the carer is vulnerable, how the carer has to accept things, not push the sufferer. If the sufferer says something, you've got to a point go along with it.
My life was on hold, particularly in the last 18 months or so, because she went downhill very rapidly at the end. And she could hardly walk, she could hardly speak. So it's quite difficult.
I went through a whole range of emotions. You know, I felt angry, I felt bitter, I felt sad, I felt frustrated, I went through, I reckon, every emotion you can think of, really, except hatred, because I loved her.
The person you're caring for, i.e. the sufferer, has undergone or undergoing a complete change. And it's very, very difficult to stand back and lose the knowledge of what the sufferer was. Apart from packing up bags and walking out the door, it's a life sentence for the carer as well as the sufferer.
It's quite a horrible feeling, really. I felt very guilty about it. My feeling is she's dead. It's a terrible feeling. I go and see her twice a week, but she's a different person, and it makes me very, very sad.
I couldn't leave her. I often couldn't get somebody to come and sit with her, which she needed. I couldn't go out. It was extremely difficult. The whole thing was 100% revolved around caring for her.
Your mind's it's hyperactive. You're thinking, when she gets up, where's she going to? Even though she's probably just going to the loo. She can go to the loo, okay, but she'll forget which way to turn when she comes out. A good example of that was I lost her for 4 hours at Heathrow Terminal 5 many years ago, only because she took the wrong terminal and I couldn't find her.
I'd lost her in the woods, and I was with a friend, and the three of us were walking along, and we came to a signpost about squirrels or something, or foxes, whatever it was. And my friend stopped and said, "Oh, look at this." We were reading it. We said, "Oh yeah," and we turned around, my wife had gone. And we spent an hour looking for her, and then eventually a car arrived in the car park. We were just going to call the police. This car arrived, and my wife was in the car, and they said they'd found her half a mile down the road.
She thinks she's done something, but you know fine she hasn't, but you can't dissuade her from the fact that she thinks she has. She thinks that 2 old dears, and I mean old ladies, she found them tucked in our bed one night. I'm not quite sure where I was, but I can't dissuade her from the fact that she thinks she saw these 2 old ladies tucked up in our bed. Now, I know it's an impossibility. I can tell her it's an impossibility, but she's got it ingrained in her head that it actually happened, that she saw it.
It was 24 hours a day, and she was waking me up 5 times a night. But she didn't know what she was doing, to be honest. And she wasn't my wife anymore. She was somebody I looked after.
You don't want to be a short fuse. Little things can tip you, raise your voice, and you've got the knowledge up in here that, although at the time it doesn't matter, because you know it's all going to be forgotten in a quarter of an hour, if that, or if you have an argument the night before. By the morning, it's all completely gone. But you still feel, how should I say, annoyed with yourself that you've said these sort of things. And inside, you know you can say these sort of things and get away with it. So it affects the mental attitude of the carer as well as the sufferer. Because I know I can say whatever I want in the evening. I feel I shouldn't have said that. But you've been there before. You know you said something. You think, I wish I never said that. But you know by the next morning it's all forgotten about. And you can't bring it up because it doesn't mean anything.
I mean, I shouted at her once, for goodness sake, do this. And she said, don't shout at me, you frighten me. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, darling, I didn't mean to frighten you. But I was so overcome myself, I didn't know what to do.
And we have a lot of tears and bits and pieces. Why is it happened to me? We're still managing, we're still surviving, but it is an uphill struggle a lot of the time, without any doubt.